Hi, welcome to Football and High Heels Presents again. I'm Sammi, the host of Football and High Heels Presents, and again, we're back to discuss the Olympics. Just this time, we're discussing equestrian. Yeah, if I could speak, it would help. And again, Katrina returns to talk with me about the sport. Welcome.
Thank you.
Now, I have known nothing about this sport except there's horses involved, so I hope you know more about this than I do.
I've been involved with horses since I was about 4. So yeah, equestrian events are kind of my thing. So let's get started.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about what the sport entails. I see there's sportage, there's dressing, there's several different things that are involved. So for me, it's all Greek to me, so to speak. So I'm really curious about what it's all about. So when I'm watching, I actually understand what's going on.
Well, Greek is actually where a lot of these stuff derive from. There are 3 events, so to speak. There is show jumping, which has all 3 of these have individual competitions as well as team competitions. So there is show jumping, dressage, and eventing, which incorporates show jumping and dressage. And so those are the 3 disciplines, so to speak, that make up equestrian events in the Olympic Games.
Oh, wow. And can you go into a little bit about what each one does? I mean, I know you just said there's team and individual. So how is it different? Is it similar to gymnastics like we were discussing yesterday? Or is it a different animal altogether? No pun intended, of course.
It's a little bit of the same, but a little bit different. So for show jumping, for the individual events, there are 8 to 12 obstacles, and those obstacles are fences that the horse has to jump over, as well as there's a time limit that they have to be under. And those fences include different types of rail jumps, which are the poles, wall jumps, which are bricks, and they're not solid. They're actually like foam material, so the horse doesn't actually hurt itself if it knocks it over. And then there are water jumps, and those water jumps can be either an actual pool that the horse has to jump over and land beyond, or they can be what's called a liver pool, which is a rail jump with water underneath it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So during the individual events, there are 3 I cannot talk today. There are 3 elimination rounds. And then the top 20 from those 3 rounds compete in 2 more rounds, and the best combined score from those 2 rounds wins the medal. And so you try to get under, every time you knock over a rail, it's 4 faults. And so you try to have 0 faults. And if you go over time, it's based on each second, I believe, over the time allowed is a fault. So if a rider, say, knocks over a rail and has a time fault, it's 5 faults. So that's how the individual works.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. It's kind of self-explanatory. It's just a little weird because if you watch show jumping in other competitions, it's normally just each rider competes, and then if there are clean rounds, there's a jump off. And so that will happen in the Olympics in the event that everybody of that top 20 has a clean round, which is really, really rare. But they'll usually do a jump off if there's say 10 or so. And then for the team event, it's 4 riders, and that's true for each team event. There are 4 riders per team, and they disregard the worst score. So basically the top 3 scores. And then the best 8 from the first round reaches the final, and the final standings are based on scores from both rounds. So it's kind of a little weird that they throw out scores, but then they keep them. It's really strange. I don't understand team show jumping in the Olympics because it has these weird rounds. And it's not like normal team events at other show jumping competitions. So that's how show jumping works.
Okay. Now, is there a specific way the horse is supposed to jump, or how does that work? And how does the rider prevent from getting hurt while jumping? Because when I see the jumps, and this is like the limit to my horseback riding experience, is do you remember that episode of Full House where Michelle was jumping and she fell and got amnesia? That's pretty much all I think of when I hear horseback riding and equestrianism. And I'm like, oh my God, what if somebody gets hurt and falls like that? That's all I can think of. So how did I prevent that from happening?
So the horses aren't allowed to see the course before they go. The riders walk the course, and the riders, they're in this because they're elite riders. They know how long their strides need to be between each fences. And so they'll pace the horse in so that they come up to the right distance from the jump to clear the jump. And some jumps take more effort than others. So those big water jumps that I was talking about that you have to land beyond the edge of the water, you'll see beforehand the horse they'll push the horse a little bit harder to speed up the horse to force them to clear that tape. There's a strip of tape at the end of that jump. And if they don't clear it, it's a fault. So it's a matter of learning how to pace your horse and knowing how to judge distances. And you kind of the horses have to trust their rider because horses don't see like humans. And so they have depth perception issues. And so they have to be able to trust their rider to know that they're going to go over that jump.
And how does the horse do that?
Lots and lots of training. The horse, in order to compete at the Olympics, cannot be younger than, I believe, 9. And most of these horses are warm bloods or warm blood mixes, and they are in training by the time they're 5 years old. They're unlike, yes, there are thoroughbreds in here. So unlike horse racing, they get started a little bit later in terms of riding, and they don't really start competing until they're probably 6, 7, and then they don't come on the elite scene until they're late 8s, early 9s. And you'll see between ages 9 and probably 18. So it's a long span of time when these horses are competing.
Wow. I never knew that. And why am I echoing? That's so weird.
I don't know, you're not
unplugging this. See, this is why we're live, so we could go through all this. Can you hear me, honey? There we go. There we go. Yay! Again, it's not an episode unless we have some kind of disaster happening, but that's what makes this show so unique. But yeah, that's very interesting. I didn't realize that they began late in life.
Yeah, so it's a matter of being, and you'll see a lot of warm bloods, so usually European horses, European horse mixes. It's really rare to see anything other than a warm blood or a thoroughbred mix, just because of the nature of the athleticism needed. Karen O'Connor, who was an Olympian, 3-time Olympian, actually rode a pony. Funny enough, he was a pony mixed with a thoroughbred, so he's half pony, half thoroughbred, and athletic little fellow, but it was just crazy of how tiny he was compared to everybody else. But, gutsy little horse.
Now, what's the difference between a pony, a thoroughbred, and the other breeds? Is there a huge difference, and does it matter when it comes to competing?
So pony is an actual different equine. They're all equines, but ponies are a subset of equine, and they're generally under 14 hands, which is how you measure a horse, and a hand is 3 feet. And so they're generally smaller, and they do events like hunter, small kids dressage, trying to think what else ponies excel. Lots of karting, so using a cart to drive. You'll see a lot of that. And they're generally used as kids' horses because they're small. A thoroughbred is a particular breed of horse that's born out of England, technically out of Arabia, moved to England, and then moved to America. It's just this particular breed of horse. And then you have lots of various European breeds that are really quite common in show jumping and in equestrian events that ride English.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I never knew that. I just always thought a thoroughbred is the equivalent to a purebred dog or cat, that it was something like that. But I never knew that there was that much of a difference.
That's a lowercase t. So yes, that technically works too, but that's a lowercase t.
I didn't know that lowercase t is that uppercase t. What's the difference in that? That's where I'm always like getting
So an
confused.
uppercase is like an actual breed name, and then the lowercase is meaning that it's a purebred horse.
Gotcha, that makes sense. But why is it the same name but different cases? And do they ever get confused with that? Because I know if I saw that, I would always get confused.
They do, but I think it's just generally if you're talking about a breed of horse, you either use its breed name or you just call it a mutt. Like there are mutts in horses, but generally if you're talking about a particular breed of horse, you use its name.
Yeah, that makes more sense because I know like I said, I would get so confused with all that, but thank you for clarifying that. And now let's talk about the Olympics in Rio and how we have the amazing team that's going to be competing for the USA. And
What do you want?
maybe on the 6th, right?
Do you want to talk about the other two other events first?
Yeah, sure. Let's go for that.
So then you have dressage, which is the oldest of the Olympic events, and it's a lot of people equate it to ballet for horses, which it kind of is. So there are two basically events within dressage. There's Grand Prix, and then there's Grand Prix Freestyle. And the riders for these events, they compete both, but in individual events, they only compete. Freestyle does not count for points, if I'm looking at this correct. And freestyle is done to music. And this is kind of what most of the time you see in clips of horses from the Olympics that are doing their freestyle because it's popular because people use music. A couple of years ago, there was a Harry Potter round. There was a horse doing Harry Potter. It was really kind of cool.
That is cool. I like that.
Yeah. So they're horses in Grand Prix. There are specific movements that each horse must do, and these are highly skilled movements that what you want to look for is how still the rider is. The more still the rider is, the better their score is going to be. And these movements are scored from 0 to 10, and you want to get a low percentage of scores. And so that's kind of how things are scored, and they're scored. There's a panel of 7 judges, and you'll see them sitting off to the side in gazebo type things, and they watch and they make notations, and each movement is scored. So they won't announce each movement individually, their score, but they'll get an overall percentage or an overall score, and that's what is taken into account to determine the medals.
But why is it a lower percentage? Usually in other events, it's a higher percentage, like we were discussing with the gymnastics yesterday. Or is it just a weird sport thing that we'll never understand?
It's just how they do it. Because there's 7 judges, they take I think it's the average. So it's kind of like diving where they throw out the high and the low, and then average the rest of them. So that's how you get your percentage.
Okay, that makes sense in a way, but I still... It does and it doesn't make sense. It's one of those things, you know what I mean?
So then finally there is eventing, which kind of combines show jumping and dressage into a 3-day event. That's why it's called event. It's called 3-day eventing. And you have 3 phases. You have dressage is always first, and it's a Grand Prix, so you have prescribed movements. Then you have a cross-country phase, which they run over several miles, and it's between 40 and 45 obstacles, which can be either water, wood, grass, houses, I forgot what else they have. And they jump them in a prescribed order, and it's over several miles, so you have to condition your horse. And then finally, the 3rd phase is show jumping, and it's a lower number of obstacles than the show jumping I talked about before, but it's the same event.
Wow, I didn't know there was all this that went into equestrianism. It's incredible. I think I'm really looking forward to watching it this year because now you taught me a lot about it, which I thank you for, and now I can watch it and understand what's going on instead of being like, ooh, pretty horsey.
That's kind of why I watch it. It's like, ooh, pretty horses.
At least we're both honest. We watch for the same reason. it begins on August 6th, right? The equestrian.
Yes, the first round begins August 6th.
Okay, how long does it go for? Like, I know it's a 3-day event, but is it going to be like consecutive days, or is it going to be spread out throughout the 2 weeks of the Olympics?
It's spread out throughout. I think they finish. They finish towards the end because 3-day eventing takes so much time. But they finish towards the end. It's pretty spread out. And a lot of the stuff, they'll never show it on cable channels, which kind of bites. But unless you watch, I think sometimes Lifetime showed London's dressage every once in a while. But I watch most of London's via live streaming because it just was never on TV because most people don't get it.
It's a shame because it sounds like it's a really interesting sport, and I would love to watch more about it and learn more about it. And it's a shame that they don't air it except on these live streams, which most people can't get because either they don't know about it or it's kind of like we were discussing yesterday, really hard to get. So it's a shame, and there should be more awareness and more airing of this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Now, who's representing us this year? I know we have several young people that are going to Rio with us in the USA team.
I only know, because I don't follow the sport throughout the year other than major competitions. And the way that the U.S. Equestrian Federation chooses their team is really interesting. They actually create a short list pretty much 6 months out. And then those shortlists compete for spots. It's a really fascinating procedure, and it's not one that I've seen other sports do. So it's a very interesting process that this team goes through. But there's 4 members per event, so that's 12 members, and then there's also a reserve that both reserve. They have actually a reserve horse and a reserve rider that are also flown in.
And how does that work? That sounds absolutely more confusing.
So each rider has 1 or 2 horses, depending on how many they qualified. And those horses obviously get flown in, and they get stabled, and they have to go through quarantine. I'll post the article. There's an article that got posted from the NBC site about how they fly horses in. It's kind of fascinating because the horses have to fly, and a lot of horses, most of these horses have been flown before because they're either purchased in Europe or they've flown to European competitions. So they're used to flying, but it's just a very interesting look at the planes and how the horses fly. And yeah, it's fascinating. But they get flown in just like any other reserve that they have. So they're just there and working out with the rest of the team.
That's interesting. And I did read part of that article on my lunch break today that you had posted, and it's really interesting. Those horses are just amazing what they go through just to get to a competition. And it's amazing how they're treated. What do you think? How do you feel about the way they're treated?
I come from a world where it doesn't surprise me, and the U.S. horses are treated extremely well. There's no question. And there have been cases, because there are, just like in any other sport, there is doping issues. And one of the most common actually is capsaicin, which if you cook, capsaicin is what is in peppers. And it's used to rub on the horse's legs, and it creates a stinging sensation, and they supposedly jump faster. Whether that works or not, yeah. It happened in Beijing in 2008. A couple horses were actually disqualified because they were tested positive for capsaicin. And it's just like gymnastics. It's extremely rare for doping. So it's not as common as you see in such sports as like athletics. Excuse me. But the horses are treated extremely well, and you have to be. These are athletes themselves, and if you don't take care of them, they don't perform. And there are a couple horses that are actually extremely temperamental in that if conditions aren't right, they don't perform as well. And so you have to take care of them just like you would any other athlete. And the riders on these teams are extremely well developed equestrians and take care of their horses and know their horses and work so hard with these horses that I don't really question treatment of animals unless it's blatantly obvious, as in some other equestrian sports.
Oh, definitely. But I'm glad they're treated really well. But that really surprises me and actually disturbs me that they would do that to, like you said, the doping with the animals, which it's really scary. And who thinks of that? That's what I want to know, how they would think of something like that to make their animals jump higher. It's really scary.
It is, and it's, especially if you look at the height of the jumps in both show jumping and cross country are at least 4 feet. So it's a scary thing to jump at least 4 feet in the air, sometimes over a 3-foot spread, with a 1,500-pound animal underneath you that has its own brain. So it's an incredible amount of athleticism that these athletes need.
Yeah, it's scary. It's scary, but
Yeah.
luckily it's rare, and hopefully nothing like this will ever happen again, because I can't imagine a poor animal having to go through this. But you've known me for years. You know how much I love animals, and I cry if I trip over my cat's tail or something. So, and hearing this about an animal just really upsets me.
I won't show you saddle seahorses then.
No. But anyway, going back to the team, you said you're only familiar with a couple of the people competing this year?
What'd you say?
I was saying the people that are going to the Olympics this year. You said you're only familiar with a couple of them, right?
Yeah, I have a list of people to look out for, just that I know from past competitions and watching them. I watch most of the major competitions that because I am able to see them online. So when they compete at like Spruce Meadows, which is up in Canada, there's a huge show jumping meet there. The Rolex 3-day equestrian event is usually shown somewhat on TV, but I also watch most of it online. That's kind of the big one. And then there's 2 big competitions in Europe, in England, that I watch. So there's about a handful of people that definitely look out for, because they're the big names on the list. There are some that I think are going to win, and others that they're sentimental favorites to me. So it's just kind of, those are the names that I think are important to look out for. So one of the most important ones, probably for at least show jumping, is McLean Ward. He has been around, oh gosh, I don't know how long. He's been around for quite some time. Very accomplished equestrian. Rides like crazy. Has a handful of horses that he rides for events. I would have to look on who he has qualified for this event, on which horse it is. He's a very accomplished U.S. equestrian and kind of the name of the sport in circles. I've advocated for years to get him on Dance to the Stars, but that'll never happen. Just because I think he'd be a riot, just to see what he'd do. The other couple names to look out for are Stefan Peters, is a really well-known dressage rider. Ian Miller out of Canada, probably one of Canada's best-known equestrian riders, followed by Eric Lamaze, or Lamaze, who just is the heart and soul of show jumping Canada. A couple of years ago, his horse, actually, he won the Spruce Meadows Cup, and his horse, then he rode back his horse, and his horse collapsed and died of a heart attack. And it was this, like, the whole world was just stunned, because this horse was on track to become probably one of the best show jumpers in the world. And he's now remembered every year in Spruce Meadows for his own event. And it's just, oh yeah, Eric is amazing. So check out him. Meredith Michaels Bierbaum is actually an American, but she competes for the German team because she married a German, and is an amazing show jumper. Loves all her horses, actually has several mounts. I think this year, maybe a couple. She and her husband run a stable in Germany. And although, funny enough, he didn't make the German team. So
Hilarious.
And I don't know why he didn't make the German team, because I don't follow Germany show jumping. So it could be for a variety of reasons, but I think it's kind of funny. Boyd Martin is another well-known equestrian out of, I believe, New Zealand. but I don't know that for certain. Does 3-day eventing, really, really accomplished. BZ Madden is probably America's top show jumper, probably top hope for a medal. Fantastic woman. I could not be more enthralled with her, not only show jumping skills, but just as a horsewoman. She's patient and willing to take the time for her animals. And it's just, I love BZ. Probably the most wealthy or most accomplished American rider right now, at least American female. Really amazing show jumper. Michael Young out of Germany, no, US. He's German by birth, but his thoughts on horsemanship and riding are absolutely fantastic. And if you want to go read anything about horse riding and horsemanship, go read him, because he frankly is one of the best trainers in the world. And if I had money and a horse, and I would go study with him, because he's just fantastic. Probably the best known dressage rider and returning Olympic medalist, Charlotte Dudin, she's probably the youngest Olympian equestrian that I know of. Fantastic dressage rider, super, super confident, beautiful rider. She will probably, I'm hoping she'll make the finals and contend for a gold medal, because she's absolutely fantastic, and she won gold 4 years ago. And then finally, probably the two, I would say, most accomplished equestrian horsemen that we've had in the Olympics are Philip Dutton out of New Zealand, also a gold medalist 8 years ago in Beijing, I believe. Super accomplished man, rides really well. And then finally, out of England, William Fox Pitt, who probably is the best known equestrian in the world. Just really fun man, really awesome to watch. I think he's going to do well as well. So
It's an interesting list you have there. Another one that you haven't mentioned that I like is Laura Graves. She's a fairly new one that's competing for the first time in the Olympics this year. She's really good. She actually, what I found interesting, gave up her entire career in order to compete in this sport. I believe she was a hairstylist. And she incredible that she gave up her career to do all this.
Yeah, there's actually a girl from where I grew up. She moved there to train. Is competing. She worked most of her life to help pay for these events, because horses are expensive. They eat a lot. So it's kind of like, people don't realize how expensive it is. I mean, people I think do realize how horses are expensive, but I don't think they realize how expensive, especially these high quality European warm bloods are. And a lot of equestrians are keeping multiple horses and working multiple horses. And a lot of times they're also not owned by their riders. They're owned by corporations or multiple people. And so the riders are riding for them, kind of like a jockey would in horse racing.
Sure, that makes sense, because like you said, it's expensive, so it makes more sense to do it that way.
And and this is something for people to fun little fact to people look out for. Zara Phillips, who is the Queen's granddaughter, most likely will be in attendance. She's a very accomplished equestrian and actually rode in Beijing, I believe, if not London as well. So keep an eye out for her in the audience. She'll probably be if you watch live, she'll probably be pointed out, because she's a princess, and
Yeah, I'd forgotten that she had rode it then, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing her. It's a shame she's not competing anymore, but it'll be great to see her in the audience.
Well, she had a baby, so
Oh, yay for her! Congratulations. Babies are always good and important reason to not compete.
Yeah, just a little. Not when you're galloping 35 miles an hour toward a solid wood obstacle.
Ooh, no, definitely not. I can't imagine that.
Yeah. Well, that's something else to talk about, is that when you're looking at the rider, especially for cross country, you'll notice that a lot of the riders are actually wearing protective vests. This is something that's been incorporated. They started incorporating these vests. They're kind of like airbags that if they're thrown, they can pull a cord and the vests inflate, kind of like airbags, and so it's a safety procedure when they land, so they're not damaging themselves. And that's been implemented since they started wearing them before London, but it's been an even more progressive thing that they're wearing them constantly now. So that's something to look for in terms of cross country, what they're wearing. You also see a lot of the horses in cross country actually have nose strips across their nose. These are actually basically breathe right strips, or like humans would wear, and it's to help open up their nasal passages so they can breathe more and take in more oxygen so they can run more efficiently. So
I noticed that. I noticed that when watching the trials, and I was wondering why they have those strips, but that makes sense, and it's actually a good idea. I noticed that the track and field do it too, and as a runner myself, I find that I never tried that, but it makes more sense to do that.
yep. So that's just kind of some things to look for in terms of what the people are wearing and why they look a little bit more bulky. It's because they have a safety vest on.
Yeah, I've always wondered that because I've noticed a couple of times they look like they're bigger over here, and I wondered if they were wearing protective gear underneath or what was going on, or they were just more muscular. But it makes sense that it's protective gear, and I'm glad they implemented this because it seems like it's a better safety precaution than what they were using before.
Yeah, there were been a couple of bad accidents, and people have died because their safety vest either didn't inflate, which has happened, or they landed just right. It is possible to land just right, inflate your safety vest, and still be seriously hurt. But the Olympic organizers have taken, over the past 20 years, have taken a lot of safety precautions for the animals, for the riders, so there aren't these accidents, because it is a dangerous sport. So it's been an ongoing process to deal with this, and the federations have just been great in promoting safety.
No, I'm really glad they do that because I'm always one of those safety first kind of people, and it's great that it shows that they actually care about their athletes. It's not just about winning, but they care about the safety of the athlete, and in turn the horse in a way, because if something happens to the rider or the horse, then something could also happen to the horse. So I'm really glad that the Federation and the Olympic Committee are doing this, and I've really admired them for that.
Well, and the horses, especially during 3-day eventing, the horses actually have to go through a vet check between cross country and show jumping. It's kind of a fourth phase, so to speak, and it's a vet check where they're trotted up and down. The heart rates are checked. They're checked for soundness and checked for overall health. So it's the horse's health is very, very much on the minds of the riders, the trainers, the organizers. It's very well promoted.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Like I said, I'm really glad they do that because it shows that they truly care about those who are involved in the sport rather than just a win. And like I said, I really admire them from that, and I'm hoping that they continue with this in years to come.
Do you have any questions?
I just want to know what we're gonna do to keep on talking about this. Are we gonna be watching again together, or are we gonna keep broadcasting about this? Because I'm learning so much, and now I'm really excited to watch.
I probably, just because they're on at the same time, gymnastics, at least for this first week, won't be watching until after gymnastics is over, because gymnastics right now is kind of I know it's going to be on.
Yeah, exactly. I'm psyched about that, and now I'm psyched about this.
I did this with London too, and with London, I didn't watch any of the equestrian stuff until after, I think, the second or third week of the Olympics, just because things were so crazy with gymnastics. So we can definitely talk about it after.
Yeah, what I was thinking was, since I did notice that they're on at the same time, and we've already booked Colleen and you for gymnastics, what we can do is we can do a post-Olympic recap and discuss it, our opinions on it, and who we think should have won, and what we think about the winners, and go from there, because it's fun and I'm really enjoying this, and I really did learn a lot from you today. Like I said, I always feel like a sports dummy which is basically what football and high heels is. It's a sport for dummies with a humorous twist to it. But I am learning so much, and I really appreciate you teaching me all of this.
Yeah, I think it's, because equestrian is such a foundation for, and dressage comes from military moves. So those moves that those horses do were based on military maneuvers to allow knights, riders to get away or to attack an enemy. So they come from a very old discipline and old movements. And so I think it's such a foundation of Olympics that it's sad that it's not well promoted.
Oh, absolutely. And I had no idea it was a military thing. And you're right, it is a very underrated sport. And maybe through this we could get people more aware of it and it'll become a better well-known sport.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting either way. And what else are you watching? I know you're watching this, you're watching gymnastics. Anything else you're going to be watching, or are you just going to have it on as background noise this time?
Definitely I'll be watching diving. Huge fan of diving. I'll probably, if soccer's on, I'll watch it. If not, eh. But that's kind of my three are those. Just because other than that, I think sports are dumb.
At a sports show. Thanks, Katrina.
Well, I don't know. I've grown up with the arts. And so the fact that stuff that really is a sport, like dance, is not in the Olympics drives me a little nuts. But yeah, it's just, I'm not a big sports person other than my what I determine non-traditional stuff that doesn't get shown other than like once or twice a year. So that's my issue. I just don't see the point.
I heard a while ago that they were going to put dance into the Olympics. I swear I heard that they were going to do something with ballroom dance, at least in the Olympics, but I guess they decided not to do that, which disappointed me.
Actually, it was. In 1996, it was an exhibition sport. Medals were awarded, but there are several sports every 4 years that get added as exhibition sports. And these are sports that they're thinking about putting in or bringing back, like rugby, golf, and what's the third one they added this year? There's one more. But they were exhibition sports, I think, in Beijing. And
Okay.
so there's a whole process of getting a sport in the Olympics or back in the Olympics, as in the case of softball and baseball. You have to go through a whole process, and it's a complicated process. But ballroom dance was a exhibition sport in 1986.
Oh, okay, okay. I had forgotten about that, but I wish it would become a more regular sport because, you and I will probably have several shows about this next season of Dancing with the Stars. We're obsessed with ballroom dance, and I wish we could see more of it. I mean, we have American Ballroom Challenge, So You Think You Can Dance, Dancing with the Stars, but I would love to see more competition with it because it's such a beautiful and fascinating sport.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of, and I hate to say this, but I kind of agree with Max Chmerkovskiy in that the format of dance sport, which is what it's called now, doesn't lend itself to the Olympics because of how it's structured. And so in that regards, I kind of agree with him. I hate saying that.
I'm just kidding. Sorry, Max.
Yeah, I agree with Max. Shocking, I know. There's just the format of the sport doesn't lend itself to, it would be so confusing for people. And because of the way they do it, it's just, yeah, they would have to do something where they have a cutoff. So they would have to do it like in figure skating, when they skate the long program, there's actually a cutoff that people who don't make above a certain score don't get to compete in the, when they do the free dance or free program or short program, whatever they're calling it these days. If they don't get above a certain score, they don't get to compete the long program. So they would have to do like that. But in this, yeah, I don't know how they would do it because it's just the way it's structured today does not lend itself to be a great Olympic sport. I mean, I would love it because it's amazing and athletic and super hard, but just the way that the things are structured. So they'd have to have they'd have to have, I don't know how they would do this, because they'd have to have medal rounds. If they do it as the format stands now, they'd have to have medal rounds for American Standard, American Smooth, or American Rhythm, International Standard, International Rhythm, and then also Dance 10, which is the 10 dances from those stuff put into one. And it's crazy. It would just be way too complicated, and, you know, so I can understand why it's not.
Yeah, that makes more sense. And then they would have to do, if they want to bring Latin in there, that's a whole other animal, and it would just.
Well, that'd be real fun.
That would be way too much.
American Rhythm is Latin. It's just called American Rhythm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I keep getting they interchange the names. I'm so used to that because they call it Latin on Dancing with the Stars, and I'm so used to calling it that. I forget that it's actually American Rhythm.
Yeah, it's American Rhythm. Well, no, it's American. It's American Smooth Rhythm. It might be Latin. No, it's International Latin. It is called Latin International. Yeah, because it's a International Latin and International Standard.
Gotcha. Yeah, there's so many different names that they call it different things in different places where it just gets so confusing. But I just know I like the ones that are considered Latin dances, the ones that are considered ballroom dances, and I'm just in love with all of it. And I wish I could dance like that. We should get Derek Huff to teach us how to dance like that.
Considering I grew up about 2 hours from where his parents have a cabin, not entirely possible. I know he posted pictures when he and Julianne were up at the lake, and I was like, I know exactly where they are.
Road trip.
Yeah, except I'm stuck here in North Dakota.
And I'm in Pennsylvania, so it'll be a pretty long commute for the both of us. But
well, I could go visit my parents and say, hey, I'm gonna go up there and just hang around town and see if they show up.
Hey, you know, it'd be fun.
Sister has a dance studio in the town, like in the, you know, up there, and I, you know, could go stalk her dance studio.
Yeah, just be like, I'm interested in dance lessons. Oh, hey!
Well, she teaches little kids, so, you know, it kind of doesn't work.
Well, you're a very, very, very tall kid. Can you tell I have a law background because I can find a way for you to spin this.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're in Spokane quite a bit, so, you know. I'm hoping that they would teach I was hoping they'd teach a master class in Spokane, but that never happened. Whatever.
One day, maybe it could happen.
The ballroom, like the dance scene in Spokane, is actually really decent for being the size of city that it is. So, one day.
We'll get there. It'll happen. And definitely I want to learn from Tony, too. And he's actually in New York, which isn't too far from where I live. So, it can happen.
City.
I just love all those dancers, and they're absolutely amazing. And they should be announcing the cast to that soon.
Yeah, Tom just posted actually something about the cast. I didn't actually read it. That I think he said a month.
Oh, wow. I can't believe that. That's crazy. And it feels like we just finished this past season.
Well, it makes sense that it'd be a month because I'm guessing they're going to try to get people from the Olympics.
Yeah, who do you think from the Olympics is going to make it on Dancing with the Stars? Since it's pretty obvious they're going to choose somebody. A couple of years ago, they had Allie on, and she was with Mark, I believe. So it makes sense that they would have someone.
Well, they got Evan right after the Olympics in Vancouver, too.
Yep, and they got Meryl and Charles after Sochi.
Yeah. My guess, they will try for Simone. They'll try for, well, depending on how Lori does. My guess is they'll try for Michael Phelps.
Of course, yeah.
He's retiring after this Olympics. My guess, if Ashton Eaton wins the decathlon for a second Olympics in a row, they might try for him. I'm trying to think who else is going that they might go for.
I think we'll go for Gabby, but I don't think she wants to do it.
Yeah, I don't think Gabby would do it. My guess is they'll go for Simone.
Oh, absolutely. I have no doubt in the world that they're going to go for her, and she would do really well. Now, who do you want to see her partnered with? That's the $1 million question.
Well, she kind of has a limit on partners because of her height. My guess, it'll be either Mark. Depends on if Derek's coming back. But I don't think he's doing something in the rain.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
So it'll be probably either Mark or Artem.
That would be a really good pairing. I would love to see Artem have another good partner because he had Leah Thompson, who was a decent partner, and well, let's not talk about last season who we had. Let's not talk about that.
I didn't even watch last season, honestly. First time in 22 seasons. It's really strange. Also, I think actually, you know who I wanted to be with? I wanted to be with Sasha. Because Sasha, he and Sasha would get along so well, and they both have very similar like temperaments. Very, very jokey, very, very like, you know, happy people. And yeah, I think she would do really well with Sasha.
Yeah, Sasha's wonderful. I loved him last season with Kim Field, so I think it's going to be an absolutely amazing partnership if that happens. So if anyone in Dancing with the Stars casting is listening, Sasha and Simone,
please.
Yes, please make that happen.
I also think because she's been on like the NBC like Visa commercials a lot, Alex Felix from Track and Field might be a possibility.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, and she'd be actually a decent partner for Tony because she's taller.
Yes, let's get Tony a good partner. Let's get Tony someone that he could actually win with again. He needs his second Mirror Ball trophy.
Yeah. I'll be interested to see if they ask Kim Johnson back.
I don't think so. I mean, she just got married. It was either yesterday or today. She just got married. So I don't think she's going to be competing because I think she just wants to enjoy her newly married life. But I would love to see her back. I mean, after all, they did bring Edita back last season, and I hope they bring her back this season again, too. So it'll be good to have some of the earlier pros that were considered the originals back because I miss them, and I think they're really what made the show what it is today.
Yeah, well, and I'm wondering if, since Derek's not coming back, they'll bring back Louis Van Amstel.
Yes. I mean, he was in season 21 with Paula Dean, so it'll be great to see him come back as well.
He needs to win, frankly.
Yes, I can't believe he hasn't won yet.
Well, you know my thoughts on the politics.
We're not going to talk about that. We avoid politics on Football on High Heels, even if it is politics on a television show. But no, I agree. But I think it's really high time that he wins.
Yep. He and Edita, has Edita won?
No, she came in second place with Jason Taylor and third with Joey Lawrence.
Right. She needs to win. Louis needs to win. Anna needs to win. Frankly, they need to bring back Anna.
Yes. Those three they need to bring back.
Yes.
And four, actually, for counting Kim.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's so many, like, good pros that I wish, like, either only lasted one season or that, and I understand why some of them didn't come back, like, Tony's professional partner, Elena Gremienko. I understand why she didn't come back, but she's a beautiful dancer, and they need another short female.
Yeah, now that Cheryl's gone and Elena's gone, it doesn't work because everyone's so tall.
Well, and then if that's the case, then they need to bring back Anna Dementieva, that was won that competition.
They had a few years back.
Yeah, she was tall, and they need tall women.
Yeah, absolutely. Just interesting. We'll see what happens, and that's a whole nother show that we could do. We could do a whole series on Dancing with the Stars because I could talk about that show all day and never get tired of it.
Yeah.
That's actually how my viewers don't know this because we're only 4 episodes in. That's how Katrina and I became friends. So we're Dancing with the Stars fan group. Over time, nonetheless, because we were looking at pictures. Someone had posted pictures.
It was before that. No, it was before the group. I got you into the group. It was Tony. It was through Sharon.
That's right. Yeah, with ballroomdancepanel.com because we were both in that group with Sharon.
Well, Sharon was in the Dancing with the Stars group on LJ, and then she was like, "Oh, because I had posted my history of the dance stuff," and she was like, "Oh, that'd be great to write for Tony and Max's site," and then she introduced me to you, and then I introduced you to the group.
I forgot which came first because it's been so long ago. That's been what, like 8 years ago?
Yeah, because that was 2000 and
Maybe like 2008 something.
because it was the second season. Because I watched the first season, but I wasn't aware of the board yet, or the LG group. So it had to be 2006.
Wow, we've been friends that long? Wow.
I know. I know. And it's like I've been looking at like my Facebook memories, and it's just like there's some Facebook memories I'm like, what the hell was I writing about?
Yes, I was doing that today too. I was reading through my Facebook memories. I'm like, oh girl, what were you thinking back then?
Yeah. Yeah, we've been friends for 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, see, my beautiful football and high heels family, this is what friendship is all about. We help each other, and now we're TV stars together. Okay, well, we are out of time, and we completely went off topic. Only we could start talking about horses and go drown to Dancing with the Stars, but that's just the way we are.
Sash is dancing.
Yeah, that's true. It's kind of like dancing. It kind of works together. And we are talking about who we want on Dancing with the Stars, so it's still kind of like the Olympics, so we really didn't stray off topic that much. Well, anyway, we're going to be meeting back with Colleen after the gymnastics air, hopefully on Sunday night. So I'm super stoked about that. And I'm stoked about the Olympics meeting on August 5th, which, again, like I've mentioned, is my brother's wedding day. So congratulations, Paul and Sam. I'm so excited for you too. And it's going to be an amazing experience with the Olympics.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Hey, I'm so excited. Well, thank you all for tuning in. I'm Sammy. Thank you, Katrina, for joining me once again. And stay tuned for next time where we discuss gymnastics, equestrians, and probably Dancing with the Stars and Facebook. Only us. Good night, everybody.
Right.
Bye.